Allies, enemies, and those yet unaligned. Howdy and welcome to another episode of Metamour Than You Bargained For. I am your host, Lynn Lawless. For those just joining us today, this is yet another podcast run by someone in a position of privilege, sharing their relatively limited viewpoint and giving advice, I guess. We get our stories from across the internet, but mainly Reddit. And what's going to make us different from most of these podcasts? Well, we're viewing everything through the lens of non-monogamy. On the mic today, we have Elle, so please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are in your journey.
Hello, I am Elle. Sorry. I'm Elle. I've been with my partner for 13 going on 14 years now. Prior to our relationship, I was actually poly. And then when I got with my partner, closed it down. We did start to open it up in 2019, early 2020, but I'm sure you can kind of guess what happened there. That didn't go so well. And then we also discovered that, I was diagnosed as autistic during that time. So I decided to step back and try to figure things out there before trying to ever step back into the poly world again.
Honestly, I admire it. I think that more people need to be comfortable with taking a step back, whether that's like permanently or just for however long they need to get their shit in line, because it's hard. It's hard to give up the like, ooh, I want to see everything and try all the different pieces of candy, but I need to go to the dentist first. Frick.
Oh, definitely. It wasn't like an easy decision to close off, but it made sense for us and it's worked really well.
And then outside of all of that, you do art and you're saving some animals?
Yeah, so I do lots of art with a focus on recycling. So pretty much if there is just a piece of something on the side of the road, I will pick it up and turn it into something else that is fun. I also rehabilitate wildlife, and I'm working on opening a wildlife rehabilitation center within the next 5 years in Central Texas.
Hell yes. And I freaking love it. Like the stuff that I think it was a wardrobe that you did a while back that was all rainbow and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so gorgeous.
Wardrobe.
Every time I saw it, I was like, oh.
Did you see the gator hutch I did that was rainbow? Oh my gosh, it was purchased by like the cutest lesbian couple and I was so happy. Like
I love that.
It was adorable. But yeah, no, I textured the whole side of it so it'd be like gator texture.
Oh, that's fucking cool. You do cool stuff. We're going to get to hear more about how awesome you are. Without further ado, let me jump into this. And by the way, we have a puppy in the studio, so if you hear him in the background, you're welcome. He's adorable. You're lucky to hear him being a little shit. You don't have to deal with him.
Right?
Yeah. Meta. Alright. The title of this one is I'm a cis, straight, white guy. I'm neurotypical, I'm not into kink, and I'm polyamorous. Here are my musings about finding community and romance here.
That feels a little declarative.
Yeah, it's always the white guys wanting you to know their opinion. This is my opinion.
No one
Read
has
it.
ever heard this side of the story before.
Not a single one. But you know, it's good content, damn it, because I like being a little catty, gosh darn it.
Sometimes the pettiness is what gets us through. Just not like a lot petty, just like the tiny.
Just a little. All right, so sorry, getting into the story. It seems that in a poly world, a significant chunk of the population is either queer, neurodivergent, into kink, or some combination of the three. Yep, it's a Venn diagram pancake stack. I think that's wonderful, and it has been a great benefit to my life to learn from these three groups as I've connected with different people in them. I've dated women that identify with one or two or all of these, and I've learned a lot from those experiences. I have approached these three groups with open-mindedness and made great friendships within them. I gained a greater understanding of queer experiences. I've learned how some neurodivergent minds work and how to adapt to their needs. I've even begun to understand why people are so drawn to kink and how it fulfills them. Good for you, buddy. This is empathy.
Aww, learning how other people think.
Aww. But I've struggled to find romance and true attachment / intimacy with people if they fall into one or more of these three groups. But I thought you just said all three people you've dated or whatever. Anyway.
Are you saying that things that are not immediately easy are difficult?
Oh, gosh. I'm always open to try dating most people if there's some initial attraction, but so far I've always run into some barrier that prevents us from getting closer or more involved. Maybe it's internal. Something ends up being really important to one of us that the other doesn't understand, in other words. I'm wondering what others might have to say about their experiences, whether they are like me or not. What thoughts others might have about how guys like me fare romantically in this space.
those guys fall into a couple of groups themselves.
Yeah.
there's-
Fall into the right groups, hopefully.
Hopefully. Not always.
Yeah,
not
no.
usually.
And like, you know, every group is also going to have their really shitty people. Like, there's going to be people who are into kink and are just absolute shitbags. There are going to be neurodivergent people who are shitbags.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I don't know.
You're going to have people who are into all three and an absolute nightmare.
I'm just a little bit salty at this guy because I don't know. Just the whole like, these are my experiences. I am mid.
Like, I am generic and these are my experience.
No one has ever been as generic as me. I am the most generic. It's the opposite of a manic pixie dream girl.
Just,
Beige nightmare man. Oh gosh. Look, okay. So I'm going to say, yes, a lot of people fall into those groups and it probably is pretty hard coming from the outside. Good on you for having open-mindedness. You know, like, I guess the bar is pretty low. But like, I can appreciate having a lot to learn and being impressed with yourself for learning all these things.
So what is the repeated lesson that has popped up? Because I typically find that if you have to learn a lesson more than once, it's not because of other people necessarily. It might be a you thing.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily in a negative way. Sometimes it could just be you needed to learn to put up boundaries. But typically, if you run into the same thing over and over, there's one factor that remains the same.
You've mentioned that your partner is pretty aligned with this guy's experience. Do you often hear your partner going around bragging about how open-minded they've been?
No. No. Actually, a little bit of the opposite. Well, more of I wouldn't call it bragging, just more of a couple of times he's excitedly come to me and been like, hey, I was at work and like this thing happened and like because of our previous experiences I recognize this. It's usually like a neurodivergency
That's good
pattern.
shit though, yeah.
And he'll be like, so I recognize that this person was probably neurodivergent even though everyone else just said they were a bitch, and so I treated them sort of the way that I treat you and it worked really well and now we have a great like working rapport.
Yeah, and that's the good shit. Like, this guy kind of sounds like the kind of guy that would be like, I found out about the G-spot last month. Yeah.
And then he's going to preach about it and then discovers hopefully he discovers that it's 3 centimeters to the left of where he's been furiously rubbing.
Yep. But yeah, like, so guy, what others might have to say about how guys like you fare romantically in this space? I think you can be a lot more relatable if you open up about ways that you have been less than stellar in the past, so that your current desire to laud yourself is more relatable. So it doesn't come off quite so higher than thou.
Braggy.
Yeah, braggy, trying to show off to people, you know.
Like, I have been in this area for quite a while and I am now an expert and here is my expertise.
Yes, and like I feel like he's one step away from meeting a girl and being like, yeah, so I dated this one girl who was autistic too, and so I know that y'all don't like burgers. So, you know, the comments were all right. They weren't super interesting, I'll be honest. But I did find one little gem, I guess. And it says to maybe hold out for more mainstream people. You know, like, if you don't want to date people who are neurodivergent and quirky and whatnot, then don't.
Yeah,
if you don't find yourself romantically tied to them, you know, like if you don't feel yourself romantically pulled to them.
Well.
Yeah, like you don't have to make yourself like autistic people just because you find one to be hot. There are plenty of hot people out there that, you know, you're gonna mesh well with or whatever. Like, I understand you're doing such a good job of learning about all this, but that doesn't mean you have to then date people.
While it's super cool to being open to dating someone with autism, it's maybe not... It feels almost slightly braggy in that point. Like, oh, yeah, I like to date people with autism. So it feels like another level of, like, braggy.
Oh, yeah, I dated a bi girl once.
That. Bingo.
I'm going to move on before I alienate more folks. This one is titled Neurospicy Meta Advice. So, this person kind of starts off at a weird shoe. It says, is there a direct relation linking polyamory and or kink to ADHD and or autism?
All right, slightly hot take. I think yes.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I agree with that because once you find out you're a little bit left of center, you start wondering why everyone else is in center in other ways. So like once you find out that you're like, oh, I'm not neurotypical. Okay, why do people do things this way? Why do people do this, and this way? And it leads into like, why do people do relationships the way they do? Why this, that, and the other, you know? So like, I feel like, yes, people who are in an alternative culture are more likely to be poly or kinky. Okay, so uh, hello, my friends and family. I hope your family's not reading your Reddit posts.
I mean, some people are super open.
Hello, my friends and family. I want to start by thanking you all for being so open with your stories and your experiences. I'm relatively new to polyamory, but I can say with sincerity that I have incredible role models in my life and through Reddit to help me demonstrate ways to do poly well. It wasn't a big leap for me. It wasn't a scary prospect because it is so normal in my social circles and through access to the internet. They say thank you for being a bastion of normalcy in this beautiful, wonderful lifestyle. I feel like they're using a little chat GPT on this, but whatever.
You know what, though? People have accused me of using ChatGPT, and I think it's just the autism.
Same, though. Who am I to say anything?
I like fun words.
Yeah. So, I would like some advice, please. I am currently in a relationship with my partner, Cusco, who has been poly for quite some time. I am uncontrollably in love, and I have been since nearly day one. Give y'all all a little spoiler for context because this comment kind of threw me for a loop. OP and Cusco have been together for about a month.
What?
When this was posted.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
A month?
Yeah, like, I feel like that's important context.
That is very, very important context.
Yeah, so.
That is...
I know that NRE is a thing, but I've had several relationships in the past and even a failed marriage and can attest to the fact this feels so natural and so good and so perfect. My partner has a partner, Pacha, that they have been with for 6 years. I adore my meta. We have been in a really great friendship, and I love spending time with them. However, they are not someone that I would have sought out and cultivated a closer relationship with if it had not been for Cusco. I cherish the friendship that I have built with Pacha, but it doesn't seem as though they value and respect and cherish me as a person as well.
I just have to say it. I have to say it. Pull the lever, Kronk.
Yeah. That, you see, I'm changing names and stuff like that in all these stories so that people don't get doxed, and I'm like, I can't come up with names off the fly, so I'm just gonna pick a movie. We're just gonna pick movies.
Okay.
Movies, TV shows, etc.
I didn't know that was you that had done that. I was just waiting to pull the lever, Kronk.
Pull the lever, Kronk on this relationship. All right, so here's the tea. We're all neurodivergent, the three of us. I have ADHD and am very likely on the spectrum in some capacity. My partner has ADHD and is on the spectrum. And then my meta is on the spectrum. We all know this about each other, and there's no preconceived notions, no questions about motives. We're all fairly scientific, and we understand that we've all got weird brain stuff going on. No big deal, right? All right, so Cusco and I would like to progress our relationship a bit more. Nothing crazy, we aren't planning on marriage or anything like that, but I'd like to be more involved with their family gatherings, with their friend group, with a bit more escalation and possibly nesting at some point. Realistically, that is something that both of us want. Pacha is currently nesting with my partner, and we've had lots of lovely sleepovers, and we do things together as a group, and we do things together individually, both my partner and myself, my partner and their partner, and myself and Pacha. It has been really wonderful individually, but there are some established routines like family gaming weekends or family holidays that my partner and I would both like me to be involved in, but my meta is demonstrating some resistance to. I totally feel like it's fair to want more, involvement in your partner's life.
Yeah, but just a month?
Yeah, that feels too soon.
You need to step back until you've been there a couple months and
Yeah, I wonder how many other partners Cusco has had, because Cusco seems interested in having OP at more events and stuff like that. Maybe it's like their first other polyamorous partner, because I feel like some people can get really fucking serious really fucking quick when they're new to poly. So I'm curious about that. But anyway, so they mentioned their meta has some resistance to this escalation this early. Totally understandable from both sides, but definitely there's some flags. Are they pink? Are they orange? Can't tell.
They're just flags of indeterminate color at this point. Yeah. But on the warmer end of the spectrum.
Yeah. So my OP's initial reaction to this kind of pushback is to simply have a conversation with the three of us to talk out expectations and goals for the future and what we all want going forward, what the boundaries are, etc. Cusco, who knows Pacha significantly better than I do, is holding off on some of this due to their understanding of Pacha's mental and emotional well-being and their proclivities as far as their ASD is concerned. And I do respect that. I've done a lot of work in the autistic community. I've worked with the Autism Self-Advocacy Network, and I have known enough autistic people to know that if you know one person who is autistic, you really know only one person who is autistic. Yep. Mm-hmm. I have no real desire to overpush for self-advocacy on my own part. I want very much to maintain a healthy and loving relationship with Pacha without rocking the boat too much. So my question for all of you much more learned and wise polyamorous folk than myself is this. How can I individually, and without putting more pressure on my partner to apply pressure on my meta, have this conversation with my meta in a way that accommodates their particular needs as an autistic person, that also advocate for my inclusion in their family dynamics and holiday weekends?
I kind of feel like if they've only been together a month, because that is a big thing, then the introduction of family dynamics and other stuff like that needs to be a lot slower, especially if there's one or two autistic people in the group, because change is difficult. Rapid change is even more difficult and causes a lot of problems. So it needs to be more of like a gradual easement into it rather than just a let's have a conversation, just change rules.
Right. And especially with like families where kids are involved, I know a lot of people are very slow to introduce like partners, metas, etc. So like keeping all of those factors in mind is very important. I do wonder how new OP is to polyamory as well, you know?
It feels pretty new.
Yeah, they feel like they're just kind of, they are, you know, they mentioned they know NRE is a thing, but I don't think they're aware of how tight a grip it still has on them. That first 30 days to like be in a relationship is a honeymoon phase. It really, really is. You know, you're just having all the fun of like, oh, this person liked me enough to date me too.
Can you remind me about NRE?
Yeah,
like my
that's
brain.
new relationship energy.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm always happy to like define things because the audience needs to know too.
Yeah, there's some, you know, I've been sort of out of the lifestyle for so long that there are so many new terms and whatnot that, you know, I don't know, so I try to educate myself.
So one of the comments says it's not OP's place to negotiate with the meta, that's the partner's job. I don't wholly believe or agree with that, you know what I mean? Like, in situations like this, I feel like it is really helpful to have everyone at the table so that no one is making decisions for anyone else's relationship. Like, yes, your hinge does have to manage the boundaries of each relationship, but what's the word? Negotiation. The negotiation should be like across the table.
Yeah,
so
like
everyone
should
has
come
their
to the
autonomy.
table and discuss it without any sort of like, they should try to like strip their emotions from it and just look at it logically and then try to figure out like the best like compromise in the situation.
Yeah.
And how to go into it easy, like ease people into it, because there are, you know, at least one, if not two autistic individuals, things will need to be eased into rather than just like a bucket of cold water, things are changed, because that never ever goes well, at least for me.
Yeah, and so I think like thinking about this in ideas of like stages and steps could be really helpful to them, because, you know, it really is nice to have like that roadmap of where you want to be, and it's easy for neurodivergent people, neurotypical people alike to see point A and point B and just jump.
And there's no like meandering on the end, but like the meander is where all of the stuff actually happens,
and where you figure out what you want, you know?
Yes,
because you may figure out you don't want to go to B, you might figure out I want to go to C.
Yeah, but you know, you can go A to B and just follow point A to point B. But if you miss all that meander and all that information in between, then you're gonna wind up without those other options that may never have popped up otherwise.
Yeah, so like, you know, if they do like a family game night every weekend, you know, maybe bringing up like, hey, once we've been together for 6 months, so you know that things are pretty stable, could we start doing it so that the first game weekend of every month I join? Just like one of them?
Yeah, like ease into it, like come up with like a schedule for integration.
Yeah, so everyone has like, these are your goalposts to be meeting.
Yeah, see, that makes so much more sense than just like forcing it out the gate, because a 1 month relationship, to me, I don't think is ready to be forced into the situation. I think that it takes longer than a month to be able to get into those sort of dynamics where you want to introduce them to family, or, you know.
Honestly, at a month, people are still kind of showing their best selves to each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you haven't seen any of the nasty stuff. You haven't even heard them fart by that point.
Yeah. Do you know how they feel when they lose board games? If you're inviting them to family game night, do you know how they are when they're losing? I'm a sore fucking loser. I'll admit that. I won't go. I'm not a good loser.
I'm a good loser unless I'm learning the game at the same time. If I'm learning the game at the same time, I get people think I'm a sore loser, but it's more because I'm frustrated trying to learn the rules.
I get that.
And then, you know, I don't care who wins. I'm just like, I want to know the rules.
I'm so fucking competitive. Okay. Yeah. So finding a way for all of you to come to the table and kind of work on building a timeline together of what you want to aim for. And then it's also very good because you can see how that person will respect a timeline or respect, boundaries that you put in place. Like if you say, hey, I don't want you meeting my kids for 6 months.
That's super important.
Are they suddenly going to accidentally have to ride home with your partner one day or something like that? And like the way that people will like ever so slightly push on boundaries and stuff like that.
And that's something I've been through. My partner didn't meet my kids until we had been dating for 6 months. And that was something I told him that, that will not happen until we've been dating for 6 months. I don't want my kids introduced to anyone who's not going to be a serious part of my life. And he was okay with that. And, but if he had pushed on that in any way at all, that would never have continued.
Yeah. Like, I fully feel that clearly stating boundaries with people and seeing how they react to things before, like, escalation and stuff like that is so important, because it's so easy in the people-pleasing part of a relationship to just be like, anything you want, absolutely, yes, okay, I'll make that work, no problem. But you need to be like, no, I'm not available on Tuesdays. And stick with that. And if it's some, small little thing, cool. Make it something that like is easy to stick to so that you can really see how much someone is going to respect your boundaries. And this too, like, the Meta has, autism and needs this kind of level of respect. See how well the OP is willing to respect that. Like, give everybody a chance here to set some boundaries in place and set some steps forward.
Am I wrong in assuming that Pasha was there before?
It sounds like it, yeah. It seems like, like they're nesting. Like, I hope they've been together for more than a month.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I was reading it correctly because, reading interpretations is important.
I get you.
It feels like, Pasha's been there for a while,
No, they've been together 2 months and moved in together, so that's why...
Oh, wait, Pasha and them?
No, I'm joking. It's a joke.
It's the other...
joke.
I'm like, wait, hold on.
I got you.
These timelines are very...
Yeah.
To put it into perspective, for me, with my partner, so we moved in together really, really quickly, like inside of 4 months, but then we didn't get married for 5 years. But that was me, because I was like, no. But I have a hard time with like rapidly moving timelines for myself particularly. So I have no idea if other autistic people do. I would think so, just because of how rapid change is like difficult for us. So I can only imagine that like something that was like, if you had already had an established relationship and then someone pops up and then all of a sudden they want to just like, it almost feels at that point at a month in, like just butting in all over the place. Like that's how I would feel, even though I would know that they are trying to have a relationship, it would still feel that way to me, and I would probably...
Because, like, our feelings don't have to be accurate to still be feelings and, like, reasonable feelings. In the same comment where the OP mentions that they've been officially together for a month, they've known each other for 6 months, but they do mention that Pacha and Cusco have lived with other metas and such in the past, so they do sound a bit experienced at least. Okay. And so like knowing that's good, knowing that OP can be like, hey, that is a goal I would like to work towards. Could we say next year or whatever, when my lease is up, could we maybe consider moving in together? Could we consider it at a future date? Like not rushing into things shows more respect, I feel, to 100%. Everyone involved. Okay. So before we take a brief break to be humans, I am going to pass this iPad over to Elle to read a story for us.
Alrighty. So, never been so in love with a monogamous individual. I've been so lost on what to do. I've been so stern on sticking with polyamory for myself and not wavering, because I'm sure we all know we've really liked a person who isn't into it and then felt heartbroken about it. But I've never believed in soulmates before, until meeting this human. But there's one big wedge between it: dating styles. He's monogamous through and through, and I haven't been for at least 2 years and don't want to be, despite how much I like him. And I have had 2 other partners of whom I intend to keep in my life and love. I have never felt so distraught over a human before. I will regret this on my deathbed if I never give this a chance, but I also don't know how to give it a chance without sacrificing my values and my relationship or forcing him into anything he's not comfortable with. Help, advice, etc. So this one kind of resonated with me because I was in a poly household when I met my current partner. I had been in that poly household for about a year and a half. I didn't really feel any sort of need to change that. I had been in a really terrible marriage before that, and I just thought that I wasn't a type of person who could be in a monogamous relationship and be happy with it. And then after spending time with him, getting to know him, I finally realized that, yes, I was comfortable with that. And so, I closed down that on my part, and we have a traditional relationship. Now, that's something that's incredibly personal, and I don't think is maybe the right decision for everyone. But for me, it was the right decision. And then, of course, we did eventually, back in like 2019, 2020, try to slightly open it up because I wanted to date women, which I hadn't been able to do as much because when I was younger, I'm almost 40, like 20 years ago in the South. So I kind of wanted to. We opened it up a little. COVID happened, and then I got diagnosed, and then we realized I need to step back because. And then, of course, once we were talking to the therapist and we knew more about my own neurodivergency, we were able to have better communication, and the lackings in the relationship that I had been feeling that led me to want to explore other things sort of just fell to the side.
Yeah, so the whole idea of ambyamory and being willing to go with whatever relationship style best fits you in the place that you are takes so much wisdom.
100%, because there are so many people who would just be like, oh no, I'm poly and I just want to do this and I want to do that, and like a lot of that is like surface level just attraction, I think. And I think maybe that also might be a different reason why it works slightly different for me being asexual, is because again, I don't ever feel that urge to just go out and like sleep with someone. Mm-hmm. I have to get to know them and be comfortable with them, and then there's also a weird thing that I have my partner do, or have him pet me for like several minutes before we ever get intimate, just so that I can get used to being touched. Because, sometimes it's hard to be touched just out the gate.
Yeah. There's a gold standard of polyamory, and how people are like, I've always been polyamorous and I've always known that I was polyamorous. And so like they think it's the most moral decision to make, but it's just not right for everyone. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. And the most important thing is to make an informed decision, because a lot of times when you like examine the principles of polyamory and notice the things that you need to be working on, all of those are things that will improve your life as a monogamous person too.
100%.
And so like just being willing to look at it and be like, okay, you know what? No, this is not for me. I feel is so much more moral than trying to force yourself to be polyamorous because you think it's like the thing to be,
Yeah.
And yeah, if this person didn't believe in soulmates up until this point and now, like, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? You get a heartbreak, that'll happen monogamy or polyamory.
If you learn a lesson, then you know that that's not actually right for you. Yeah. And not to try to go down that path again.
Even if you break up with someone, that doesn't mean it wasn't a successful relationship.
Bingo. That's, I think, something people don't realize that often is that you kind of take something from every relationship.
Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot to acknowledge, who you are in a relationship and to learn those things. And then to know yourself well enough to be like, I love this relationship, but it is not fulfilling some part of me that is deep down. It's not something that you need to work on more. Whether or not you're polyamorous or monogamous, there's traumas and all of those kinds of things that surround that. But whether or not you are inherently monogamous or polyamorous shouldn't be something that you feel you need to work to change.
Agreed.
And so, like, if this person is, like, fine with either relationship style after they've met this person, cool, awesome, good, go for it,
Definitely.
And if they meet this person, they're like, I love them so much, but I can't be monogamous.
That's also valid.
That's more personal insight. Like, one of my partners recently broke up with me because they are becoming monogamous, Mm-hmm. And so a part of me did go down the path of, well, what if I was monogamous? What if I could be monogamous? And I can't. I just can't. Like, even if I wanted to deeply in my core, and I worked on all of the trauma that I have around, like, being afraid to be someone's one and only, I think I would still be polyamorous. And I'd just be better at it. So, that's why I'm working on it.
Yeah, see, I think honestly for me, I could probably go either way, but my partner and I, we work really, really well together, and so that's not something I'd want to, like, mess with. But that's not to say in the future we might not possibly open it up. Now, the one thing there, though, is that my partner is not the one necessarily interested in opening it up. It's me to explore relationships with women, and so that gets a little bit tricky because while he isn't interested in opening it up, I am, and so there are then rules put upon it that from the outside look really, really misogynistic, even though it's him putting boundaries on my exploration or something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, and it's one of those things where, like, I don't like those kinds of boundaries being put on relationships, but as long as you're, like, upfront about it with other people, like, it's not the unicorn hunting of, like, oh, you want to date girls, but my husband has to be in it too. Like, there is a way to open up into a mono-poly relationship and to have boundaries without inflicting harm on others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so our next post. How do you recognize if someone is able to make space for neurodivergence? I'm slowly moving back into the dating world after a pretty bad relationship ending, and I've come to realize one of the big issues was the fact that I didn't feel like my being neurodivergent was accepted by the other person. Part of that was my own doing. I wasn't able to assert my needs on a regular basis, but this also made me realize that I am not sure what to look for in someone new, to see how they might handle a potential partner who's neurodivergent. I realize that some of this is kind of subtle and it's not something that is going to scream at you on your first date, but if someone is neurotypical, is there a way that you can talk about the subject and see if they have the capacity to hold space for that? I also know that holding firmer boundaries about how I'm treated will be a self-selecting process, but that's something that takes a while to get into, to be honest, and something I'm still practicing. I'd appreciate hearing how you handled this with a partner, as well as the other side of the coin.
I can maybe speak on this as someone on both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
For the first, math is not my strong point, but for slightly more than half of our relationship, we did not know that I was autistic. We knew I had severe ADHD, CPTSD, PTSD, and ADHD. Oh, good times. But we didn't know about the autism until 2020, when so many of us women were actually diagnosed because, everything falls apart and then we fall apart and then things become more obvious when previously they hadn't been. So we've been in a situation where we started off where he thought that I was neurotypical to some extent. He knew I had severe ADHD, but, and then we got to a point where we both, came to accept that I was autistic, and that changed things quite a bit as well. And so our communication styles have had to change drastically throughout our relationship to accommodate that, and things have only improved because of it. So if you have someone who's supportive, then it's amazing. But you'll know if you don't have someone who's supportive.
Mm-hmm. I've been on both sides of the coin as well because, being a neurodivergent person, I only started to come to terms with all this in, I think, 2018 because I hit a really, really bad patch of autistic burnout.
Yep.
And it made me kind of question my entire existence. And I realized that there were a lot of things that I had just kind of been doing because it was the pattern, it was the habit, and started to really work on those things and changed my whole fucking life from it. But I've also dated a lot of neurospicy people. I say some people hate neurospicy. I like it because my guts hurt. My neurospiciness makes my gut hurt, just like real spicy. But so, trying to figure out if someone you're seeing is also potentially neurodivergent, it's definitely a part of the process, but every single neurodivergent person is going to be different, and some people are going to be more understanding than others, just like neurotypical people. So kind of the trying to figure out if the people you're going to date are neurodivergent as well, it kind of feels like looking for the wrong green flags. You know what I mean? I think having those conversations and talking about things up front, even though being more uncomfortable and more gauche by social standards.
Right. Everyone's so upset about showing your flaws at first, but I honestly feel that only showcasing your positive side while hiding all of your flaws is very non-authentic, and not a great way to start a relationship.
Yeah, no. And it also kind of it feels like not being as honest with yourself when you kind of avoid that stuff.
You're lying to yourself. You're lying to them. You're setting yourself up to be held to an impossible standard that you know that you can't keep up with. It's a lot easier to just be upfront.
Yeah. So finding out if someone has the capacity to hold space for your neurodivergence is something that you can kind of test from day one. Just be your weird ass self, for lack of better words,
Yeah, if they start acting wildly uncomfortable and trying to hide you from people, that's not going to go well.
If they make you feel like your mask needs to come back on, they're, maybe not going to be someone that is as good for you in the long term, I understand, social feelings, I throw my mask up all the time, But when I'm considering dating someone, again, I'm demisexual. It takes me a long time to even consider. I'm also demi-romantic. I'm demi, all the way down.
Yeah, see, I thought I was demi until I figured out I was ace. But I think it's like ace, demi, pan.
Yeah.
I don't.
Give me more
It's
labels.
confusing.
I like taking labels because honestly it helps me describe myself more succinctly.
See, I like labels, but I also dislike, I like the labels because it helps me like figure things out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too many labels makes me feel like I'm too much.
Yeah.
And that's something I've been working on in therapy, so.
I like when people, when we share labels because it's kind of like, oh, what does that mean to you? Like, okay, you're pansexual too. Like, what does that mean to you? Or, oh, you're autistic too. Like, what does that mean to you? And like getting to dig in on those things. But having kind of like a better starting ground of understanding is so fucking nice. But yeah, it is hard to date, period, as a neurodivergent person. With polyamory, there is that added struggle of building up routines when there is something in your life that can constantly be in flux, Like, as soon as you get into a routine with one partner, maybe they start dating someone new. Maybe you start dating someone new.
And that is something that also, I sort of looked at when we had kind of opened things up. And that was, again, another reason why I felt more comfortable closing it back down, because I was just like, okay, yeah, I kind of want to date women to see like things that I've missed. But at the same time, like now I'm getting these things from my partner that I wasn't previously getting. So I don't actually feel that drive as much. And then also adding new people is adding new people. That's new habits, new proclivities, new mindsets, new everything. And you have to readjust everything. And of course, that's super difficult as a neurodivergent person as it is. So for me, it makes more sense to just keep it closed down, at least for now. Like, it might be in 5 years we decide to try to maybe find a third. But again, because of when you talk about looking for a third, people generally call it unicorn hunting, even though you might be looking for an actual relationship with the third person and not just wanting sex with them. So it kind of winds up being as like it gets frowned upon, even if that's not necessarily your goal.
Yeah, because it is hard to want those things and also acknowledge that like a lot of times when those things are wanted, they're not acquired in the most ethical ways. Like fully acknowledging like this is a level 12 cloud 9 fantasy world where everything happens to work out versus like this is something I'm gonna make happen. I will accept nothing other than this, because a lot of people will come into polyamory with that, and that's the unicorn hunter mindset in my opinion. Like they are out to hunt for this one thing specifically, and they're not open to other things. And
see, that's sort of where I actually started out, was as a unicorn. I floated in a poly household where there was a couple of main couples, and I floated between all of them. And that's just how I was. And at the time, that's what I needed, because I needed relationships, but not strict relationships. I needed, I was coming out of an abusive relationship. So I needed support, but not rigidness. It worked very, very well for me at the time, but I don't think that's something I could ever do again. I don't think it would work for me.
I feel that I've been a unicorn a couple of times, and it's one of those things that I'd be open to again, but I have so many hang-ups around it now and like trauma experiences that like my qualification list is 12 miles long, and the fact that most couples aren't even willing to read the 12-mile long list rules a lot of them out. And like like OP said, it's kind of a self-selecting process. One thing that like neurotypical or neurodivergent, one thing that I look for in potential partners is when one of my quirks is exposed, how do they react to it?
That
I personally tend to avoid people, like judgment, obviously. You avoid people who act judgmental when you do that kind of thing. But in my opinion, just as important, I've come to learn, is also not going for people who then start to kind of like infantilize or fetishize, or like, oh, you're so cute and quirky. The people who do that, it's an immediately
manic pixie dream girl to death.
Exactly. So like I've had that happen so many times. But like when I do something weird and someone's like, oh, that's interesting, why do you do it that way? And like show the curiosity and like want to know
green
the
flag.
Why. Yeah, that's the green flag there. That's the kind of thing I go for,
Yeah.
Instead of like, because it's so easy to kind of recognize when you're having one of those neurodivergent slips, one of those moments. So when you're getting to know someone, acknowledging when you're having that internally and switching to reading their reaction to it, I feel will give you a lot of insight into how they will make space or time or emotional care for you as the relationship goes on.
Definitely. And I also think it's very important to make sure that if you're going to get into a relationship with like more than one person or even with just one person, you really need to make sure that they've actually done some of the emotional work, because everyone, I don't know like pretty much anyone who's come out of their childhood like non-traumatized. And that's not even just autistic folks who come out 100% traumatized. That's, I think there's always something, and I think it's something that needs to be like at the forefront of discussion and at the beginning of any sort of like friendship or interpersonal relationship is like, hey, I have these things going on. Like even my coworker and I, you know, discussed at the beginning, like, hey, I've got these problems. And he was like, hey, I've got like severe CPTSD due to this ongoing problem. And so while we have had communication issues, because we both know that, we've both been able to like get over it a little bit easier as coworkers because we both know and we were upfront about it like from the get-go. And I think any relationship benefits from that.
Oh, yeah. My relationship with my boss is definitely improved because I've been so open about like, hey, I have a lot of anxiety from past terrible bosses, so I will probably over-explain and worry about silence and stuff like that. So if you ever just see my message pop up and you don't have time to respond or whatever, just giving me a little emoji on it, you know, will really help. And like, so, you know, we did that for a long time, and I've come a long way in my job trauma, and I've come to trust my boss a lot, which, you know, I will say my manager is one of the few people that deserves to be in management. Anyway.
Same. My boss has a neurodivergent wife and an autistic older son. Mm-hmm. So, like, I was able to just, when he took over as district manager, like, I was able to just slide in and it was really easy. And that's not normal, but it's been very, very great.
But yeah, like, being able to have that communication open so that you can work on building trust to get past these things or, you know, get better, it's awesome.
100%.
So good.
Like just having open communication lines and understanding like other people's thought processes behind stuff helps so much in so many ways. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and getting comfortable having those conversations as early as possible, I feel, will save you a lot of like heartache because you're not going to get so emotionally invested in people that you're not like deeply compatible with, you know? Because
agreed. And I also think that goes like just beyond relationships. I think that goes towards any interpersonal relationship, whether it's coworkers, family, anything, because everyone could benefit from those like early conversations like, hey, here's a thing I have, here's a thing you have, you know, blah blah blah. Like I have certain verbal triggers that if someone says them to me, I will lock the fuck down. And I only just figured out one of those the other day, and I'm almost 40. Like,
yeah. So wrapping up, be aware of your own neurodivergent needs and read how people react to your neurodivergent needs is the best way, because there is no like, we don't have a gaydar. We don't have a autodar, whatever, no fucking words there.
Although the people around us will apparently develop an autistic radar.
Yeah. They'll be like, I've been told that I kind of like, you know, hit that uncanny valley for people, like just like the not quite person.
Yep.
And I'm like, that feels great.
I hit that for people, but also one of the things that I'm actually proud of is that my partner who works EMS, learning about my neurodivergency and understanding how it is, has started treating other people on calls differently, because he'll be like, oh, this person's probably neurodivergent. Even if they don't say they are, he knows how to just like switch over and just like click over to like that sort of, you know, form of communication. And it's just been all the better for him.
Yeah. And I feel like since he's been willing to like learn and adjust for you, him having a better starting point and like also probably being willing to adjust to people on the fly is just great. It's just another like fucking tool in his toolbox.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
All right. Our next story is, are you suspicious of relatively neurotypical, conventionally attractive people when they're interested in dating you?
Every single time.
Yeah. Literally, yeah. Because part of me is like, this is a joke. I'm being pranked. I'm the butt.
You're making fun of me.
Yeah.
Again.
I'm a project.
You're going to try to change every single part about me, and it's going to go terribly for everyone. Everyone's going to cry. This is never going to work. We should just stop this now.
So the answer is yes. But to read this person's lovely post. All right. Neurodivergent, nerdy, awkward folks who usually aren't swimming in too much sexual attention. Is it reasonable to be suspicious if a conventionally gender-conforming, hot, neurotypical, and hetero-presenting person is trying to date you? Especially if they're a straight man and you're a woman? Yes. Would you assume that they're just in it for the temporary sexual adventure or for an unconsensual power dynamic before finding someone more presentable to be in public? So think someone whose energy is more vanilla, nightclub, dancing repetitively to boring music rather than a BDSM party or a Renaissance fair like I am. Someone who's following a bunch of aggro fitness influencers and conventionally attractive Instagram models and overall mainstream content on social media while you follow D&D memes and...
Wait, I have a question though.
Yeah.
So if they're following dancing repetitively to boring music rather than BDSM party or a Renaissance fair like I am, or someone who's following a bunch of aggro fitness influencers, conventionally hot Instagram models, that just screams to me dominatrix without the title.
Yeah, you think he's looking for a dominatrix?
100%.
You know, that does make sense.
Just the way that he worded it, it seems like I'm looking for a dominatrix.
Oh yeah, further insight for the folks here is Elle has also done SW, so speaking from a place of knowledge and insight, not just out the booty hole.
Yes, no, so I was in regular relationships that were BDSM, where I was in the leadership position. I have been in lots of paid relationships where I have been in the leadership position, and this screeches that to me, like 100%.
All right, so I'm just trying to understand how normal, attractive, hot, non-nerdy folks are attracted to us weirdos and whether this can be legitimate or if I should protect my social security number around them. Just kidding. Mostly, I'm assuming that they're assuming I'm just an easy target for them. Maybe they'll just fill up some time before they leave me for someone more socially acceptable, or is this just the weird temporary manic pixie dream girl or whatever? Yeah, hitting so many nails on the head.
So it could definitely be manic pixie dream girl. It could also be someone who's looking for that sort of relationship, and the people who keep hitting the, what do you call it, like the check marks happen to be neurodivergent, because that does tend to happen. I will say, as a neurodivergent dominatrix, one of the easiest things for me is making eye contact during sessions. Mm-hmm. Can't do it otherwise. It's uncomfortable. I can make eye contact, look away, make eye contact, look away, make eye contact, look away. But unless I'm in a session as a dominatrix where it is like where all of the rules are laid out ahead of time, and that's a very important thing, I have no problem making eye contact.
I feel that's so fucking hard because my biggest thing when talking to people is like, what are the rules around the amount of eye contact I'm supposed to be making?
Yeah.
So of course you can make more eye contact when it's like
there is literally
out.
A whole thing where there are so many neurodivergent dominatrixes, and I swear it's because of that.
We build a good mask.
We're able to set the rules for the social interactions, and so it becomes more comfortable for us. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like 85% convinced that's what's going on.
Oh, okay. Fucking hell. There's so many. They're touching on so much, and it feels like this was written by one of my subconsciouses. All right, so they say, obviously, someone can be into clubbing, fitness, and D&D, and progressive politics at the same time. I like all the above.
Are they talking about my partner?
I'm referring to people who seem to lean noticeably towards more normal and conventionally attractive than you and your friends. In my case, one such guy even said out loud that he wasn't a nerd like his team members, and he didn't fit in. He even said out loud, my friends aren't nerdy, they go out, totally unsolicited. His actions showed me that he liked me for my personality and my intellect, but I think something felt really off, and I just couldn't take him seriously.
Yeah, no, I can feel what that off is.
A little bit of fetishization.
Yeah, that's fetishization 100%.
Yeah, it's the ooh, this is different, not my normal brown butter.
If someone's trying to show you off for your weirdness, they're fetishizing you.
Yeah. All right, so for context, I'm also somewhat gender non-conforming in appearance only and am straight, but I'm not thin or feminine, and as most of the women around me are. I'm in the urban Silicon Valley Bay Area, and so was the wasn't a nerd guy above. Most of my friends are queer, polyamorous, non-conforming, in every dimension, which I love, but sometimes I've had a few normie hot guys outside of these circles hit on me. I didn't think about it too heavily before, but since looking for more serious relationship, I feel like it's important to find someone that'll treat me as an equal. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of ignore the normie guys that hit on me because I don't think they will ever be capable of the sort of emotional intelligence that would be required to be in a relationship with me.
I run them through the gauntlet. If they want a manic pixie dream girl, I'm going to cause them some nightmares. No.
There's a reason that my dominatrix name was Manic Pixie mean girl.
Yeah. The answer is fuck yeah, I'm suspicious.
Always.
One of my partners is conventionally attractive, and he says that he's cis and neurotypical. I think he's definitely neurodivergent, but, respect how someone identifies.
Okay, so my partner, I had been telling him the entire time we were together that he was neurodivergent. I just hadn't figured out his flavor yet. In the last 3 months, he started seeing a therapist who told him that because he was heavily parentified as a child, that his ADHD manifested in a way that was useful.
Yeah.
He got the useful ADHD. I did not. But
yeah.
So we're technically mixed neurotypes, but we still have a lot in common. And it also explains why all of his best friends are raging neurodivergents, because that man does not have a single friend that is neurotypical. They're all either ADHD or ASD.
Yep.
There's no in between there.
Yeah. So with my conventionally attractive partner, I definitely didn't immediately launch in on him. Honestly, we were super platonic friends for a while. We were in a D&D campaign together.
Hell yeah.
And I didn't think that he would be interested in me, and then he dated someone that looked a lot like me and acted a lot like me and was seriously interested in her, not just fetishizing her.
Okay.
And then as I got to know his wife, I found out his wife was a lot like me too, So I think, kind of examining someone's dating history might be another thing to look at, with this kind of situation. Are you the first super alt person this person has dated, and they're just kind of after the new and exciting and unfamiliar and whatever?
So with my partner, yes, but all of his best friends have been raging ADHD or ASD.
So maybe not just partners, but both.
Yeah. So all of his besties are neurodivergent. So that started making more sense after a while, because I was just like, how are we together? And but then I slowly realized all of his besties were raging neurodivergent.
Yeah, if they're just a really attractive, neurotypical cis-het person, that is surrounded with other neurodivergent
You might
people,
want to question their neurotypicality, because it might not be.
There's that, but also, it's just they're a little bit, safer than someone who, the example that OP used, really did seem like they were just going after that novelty.
Mm-hmm.
None of my friends are nerds, didn't date nerds, yada, yada, yada. And, OP did say you can be interested in D&D and a fitness junkie, yada, yada.
You can. Again, my partner, he's loves MTG and all the video games, and he is a raging fitness junkie, and I've gone through my times with that.
Yeah. It's just about, getting to know them as an individual, which is going to be just part of dating anyway.
People are multifaceted, regardless of whether they're neurodivergent or not.
Yeah. And all these things that they're presenting as, you don't want someone judging you by how you present and all of that. So, I guess, you should be applying that to other people as well. So, yes, I am suspicious. No.
Although there is a thing that happens where you are so used to having other people make assumptions about you that you start making accommodations for other people that you shouldn't necessarily, because you're so used to other people talking shit about you that you just... That's a thing I've been dealing with recently.
So, yeah, I am suspicious. I realize that I shouldn't be, because a lot of my suspicious tendencies are not rooted in the best things. But
see, I'll argue that
keeps
and
me
say
safe.
That there are suspicions are what keeps us safe,
Yeah.
and that it's maybe not necessarily rooted in what's wrong, but what's rooted in history and what is, historically kept us safe.
Yeah. I'm so, I try so hard to be less judgmental, but then, at the same time...
It always fucks me over.
I'm a femme person. I need to be a little careful in general, and a little conscious, and a little etc. So as much as I hate having, those as soon as someone typically attractive and sort of beige, looking comes up to hit on me, I am suspicious, and I don't think they have good intentions.
Granted, to be fair, I'm not really attracted to beige people.
Yeah.
It's always the weird metalhead guys that don't quite fit in.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next one, unless you had anything you wanted to say about this one.
No.
Awesome. So I tend to like to wrap these up with if you could sum everything up in one little survival tip for people polyamorous, not polyamorous, just, people in like mixed neurotype relationships, I guess I would say, what would that advice be?
When you go into relationships with your partner, regardless of how you might actually feel, do not allow yourself to get defensive. Because being defensive is going to put up barriers to communication that nothing else is going to be able to take down. You have to go into it vulnerable. And even if they're accusing you of a bunch of shit you don't think that you did, you have to go into it vulnerable because maybe you're not understanding that you are doing those things. And so you have to be open to it. Now,
vulnerability's hard.
If someone is like, someone who's like gaslit you for forever, ignore the shit out of that. This is someone who's always been honest with you. But if someone's always been honest with you and they're telling you something, you need to listen. And then you both need to come to the understanding and try to come to a like consensus and a resolution.
Fuck yeah, I love that. Because, oh God.
Being defensive is like one of the hardest. Once someone gets defensive, then the other person becomes offensive, and then there's no escaping that cycle.
Or you both end up defensive and like no real communication happens. Because I will admit,
because everyone feels like the victim.
I get defensive super easily because I have been, bullied a lot and like my words have been twisted and stuff like that and used against me in a lot of ways. So I get defensive super fucking easily. So I often have to be like, hey, I need to take a step back and find myself before I continue this conversation because I am not coming to this conversation as myself.
And it's definitely an important thing to be able to say in a conversation like, hey, I'm not being my best self right now. I really need to take time to actually think about this and like come to where I'm at and not just react to this off the cuff, because reactions off the cuff are never actually accurate. It's always just a like, it's a reaction. It's not like a thought out process.
Yeah. My little tip from all these stories, I guess, would be to put all of, like, some people will say, fuck that. Some people will be all for it. But I think that mentioning your baggage, your shortcomings, your needs
100%. Be
upfront,
honest.
Yeah. It's awkward and, like, all of that kind of stuff. And like, you shouldn't have to explain yourself, yada, yada, all these things that people say.
No, but the only relationship I've ever had that's lasted is the one where I started, where I was just like, hey, here's all my warts. You should count them, look at them, and then decide if you want to have to deal with those warts.
Yeah, because everything's going to come up one way or another. And so, like, getting that stuff out before you're emotionally invested is easier, and you can build that relationship on a foundation of open and honest understanding, communication.
Which is the only way it's ever going to work.
Yeah. So, like, as uncomfortable it is, as uncomfortable as it is, have those conversations early if getting any kind of accommodation is important to you. If you are one of the people who are like, I don't need nothing, examine yourself a bit more, because I think you're just people-pleasing anyway.
And you might actually need more than you think that you need.
You're damn right. That. You got needs, embrace them. You can be low maintenance and still have needs.
That is the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, so thank everyone for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Elle, please tell us where people can get some of your lovely art in order to support your future wildlife rehabilitation.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I have a Poshmark account, and it is under Lynn Darling, but you can also look up the hashtag Recycled Riot. It has everything from clothing, jewelry, everything. There's lots of redone leather bags. I like to take expensive old leather bags, completely re-dye them and restore them. I like to take beautiful silk clothing, strip the dye out, and re-dye it. And everything that comes out of Recycled Riot or, my Poshmark account, Lynn Darling, just goes directly towards the wildlife rehabilitation work that I do.
Fuck yeah, we love it. Metamour Than You Bargained For is a production of Roll to Finish LLC. I've been your host, Lynn Lawless. Our producer, editor, and all-around badass is Sloan Abbott, and our audio engineer is Kel Fernandez. We all hope to see you back for our next episode, which will be in 2 weeks. Every other week, we're getting you a new episode. In the meantime, please make sure to follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/metamourpod to join our Discord and listen to our exclusive bonus audio content. You can join our community and post your stories to our subreddit r/metamourpod, or if you're a bit more private, send your story to our Gmail, metamourpod@gmail.com. For other ways to listen and keep up with the show, check out our Beacons page, beacons.ai/metamourpod. In the meantime, subscribe, drop us a 5-star review. If it's funny, I might read it. That's all I gotta say. Get out of here. Bye.